Welcome back to Color in Christ podcast. I have my amazing co-host, cohorts, with me as we continue. We're just going to keep this conversation going. Hopefully, you're just learning, loving the vibe, and hopefully you see us giving honor to God and just making Him a consideration in what we do, however that looks. And so the next topic is fairy tales. Ladies, you guys believe in fairy tale love? What are your thoughts on fairy tales?
I don't believe in fairy tales.
You don't?
I don't believe in fairy tales.
Well, clearly my response says I do. I do believe in fairy tales.
Well, Sarah Huxtable is your Proverbs
31
woman. So
Claire Huxtable was my Proverbs 31 woman. I do believe, I'm like the hopeless romantic. I even believe in love at first sight, fairy tales, perfect love. Yeah.
I don't believe in fairy tales. What the fairy tales that I don't believe in fairy tales where there's a prince and Prince Charming and they come and sweep you off your feet and I don't believe in that. And you know what? That's not the way God intended it in the beginning. That's not even how they did it in the beginning. They even arranged the marriages in the beginning. The women in
Adam and Eve were a fairy tale.
I think
Adam and Eve were fairy. Go ahead.
I think like growing up, I had so many. I'm Gen Z, so I have so many like examples in media of like fairy tale romance. Like I was watching Cinderella. I was watching, or like even like live action like Princess Diaries and all these different things where the girl, she's and I relate to them because they're like the nerdy or shy girl, the hardworking girl, and then they become like the princess or they meet the Prince Charming and things like that. So I would say I am kind of like the hopeless romantic too because I watch that and I watch Hallmark movies. I'm a sucker for them. So, but I agree with you, Sister Jackie, that like it's not what God had intended because it's really because Jesus is like our prince or he's like our nice shining armor if you want to like call it that. Like he's the one who died on the cross and he's the one reason like we have life and things. So I feel like we have to focus on him as like our savior, as the person who's going to come and save the day, not a man.
Charming, Prince Charming.
I just disagree. There's Adam and Eve. There was the fall, but that was God's original design, like perfect, this beautiful union.
Where's the fairy tale in that? Like
that it's perfect.
That is perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, perfection is not something that we're gonna. What do you call perfect? That's the thing. What you say is perfect.
That does lead to a question of what are some. So even if you guys don't believe in fairy tales, which like is literally crazy, but even if you don't, what in dating have some thoughts that you have carried that are fairy tale-ish? Like for me, I'll just say like I know one where it's been a working thing that I've evolved from is men and money. Daddy issues? No, I'm just playing. I said that's my get out of jail free card for all my dysfunction. Of that and slavery. I use all those. Like whatever's just fun. I go slavery, daddy issues. But anywho, I digress. But men and money, my thought around fairy tale was the man is going to be the provider. He's going to be rich. We are fit like the rich man and I as the woman. Then I'm good, set for life. I literally believe that. I believe that was a man's role and dated accordingly or did not date accordingly based off that. Obviously, that has evolved as I've matured and just learned and matured and learned. But that was a fairy tale that I felt like that I adopted by society, that's the model of a man, that I no longer have that. And also, I had the fairy tale of, I just thought marriage would be sex and dates. I didn't realize there's helpmeet, there's seasons where you might be up, you might be down, it might be, you might have to be the breadwinner. I just thought, we'll go on dates, we'll have sex. He's going to be the breadwinner, life is great. Those were genuine, I genuinely really operated and searched for that. That was a fairy tale. So I've evolved again past that. But what about you guys? Are there any things that you kind of had ideas that you're like, in practice, maybe not so much?
I would say, like I said, with the media, everything that was pushed for me, it was always just like the girl who's like the shy girl because like meets her Prince Charming or like I remember I always wanted to be like Gabrielle in High School Musical. I always wanted to have, or Tiana in Princess of Rock. I always had these like standard of like, I'm hardworking, shy, intelligent girl who falls for the jock or the popular guy, and then that's how it plays out. We live happily ever after. Mm-hmm. And then even with marriage, I think I had that same mindset of like, oh, it's just, we just live happily ever after. There's no up and downs. It's just what it is. Like, but I think because I started, reading my word and just going deeper with Christ, it's changed to where it's like, oh, this is more serious. This is about his vision for humanity and the earth and things. So I think that now it's more about like, marriage being the covenant, marriage being ministry, that sort of thing. But like I think in the past it has definitely been
the fairy tales. Were there any fairy tales? I mean, you literally walked into, you didn't go into your marriage with certain ideas or fairy tales?
I did not go into my marriage with certain ideas and fairy tales because I didn't grow up in a fairy tale world. So I pretty much knew what I was getting into when I got into it. So,
well, let me just ask this. If you don't subscribe to fairy tales, what would be the point of dating if it's not for the fairy tale? What if you're not evolved? I'm saying before. Now you have evolved, whatever. But you're saying you never did. So for me, if you're not like, oh, wow, the idea of falling, whatever, for you, what would have been the impetus? Like, I want to date. I want to, just your natural female urge?
The natural female urge along with the companionship. Because we were made to be in communion and in communication relationship. That's just the natural male-female. Yeah.
But no fairy tale.
No fairy tales
for you.
Yeah. Well, I didn't grow up in a fairy tale world, so yeah. Poor me, I know.
I'm so known to my fairy tales. Well, but with that being said, what do we think about not only the fairy tales that we put in the relationship, but on men? Do you have a certain standard of men or type? Or are there certain qualities that you think a man should have?
He should be a provider. He should definitely be a provider. But then the woman has to be willing to live with what he can provide. And her stuff, whatever, should be extra. But if the female loses her job and cannot contribute to the family, the husband should be able to make sure there's a roof over your head, their children, you're being fed and clothed. He should be able to do that. What was the question? I started. Okay.
What qualities, there ideal qualities in your particular guy? Like in a guy that you would date, are there certain qualities that he should have? We can even open it up even further. What about lists? Do you have a list? Do you guys have a list? Or do you think you should even have a list?
My mom always told me, she's like, if you have a list, there's going to be, you have a gazillion things, and there's going to be one thing on that list that he's not going to meet.
So yeah.
So it's like,
that's so interesting because I know, again, you guys are going to be like, oh my God, but she's an actress. Oh my gosh, her name, but her husband, she did, and I know other women that did a list and they go, oh, the fairy tale. We hear this he was everything on my list. So I thought, I did believe in lists and have had lists. I will say how it's evolved for me in the, lens of fairy tales is I was so busy crafting my list of the qualities he should have. And then I dated a guy who actually had my qualities, but then I thought, and it was the Holy Spirit that made me do this self-check. How is he treating you? And it's so weird that this man that had all these qualities I had on my list, when I had to reflect on, but it wasn't necessarily, he didn't treat me bad, but he didn't have a heart for me, and how it affected how we dated. And I was like, oh, wow. So that was really interesting because I was, the list from, and I'm going to think of this actress's name, but she's not the only one, but I thought she was the most, it was just amazing because she was really specific to the fact that she said she wanted a retired football player. And she even got, so I was like, list down. And like I said, it evolved. It started to evolve for me once I started dating somebody that checked off some key, like list. He was checking it off, but how he treated me.
Was she a believer?
Yeah, she actually is. And one of the things that was one of the requirements on her list, he had to be a believer. Their first date was a church date. When I think of this actress's name, oh my God, we love her. We love her.
We do. What
about Russell Wilson and Sierra though? Like, because like Russell Wilson, he had said that when he met with Sierra, he had non-negotiables. So like, what are your thoughts about that?
Non-negotiables?
There are some non-negotiables.
Yeah,
like we just said, the non-negotiable for me would be that you are not a believer. Mm-hmm. That would be a non-negotiable, but I don't know what his non-negotiables were. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think my non-negotiable, well, I've said two of mine. Stevie Wonder is a non-negotiable. If you don't like Stevie Wonder, we're not compatible. Yeah, we're not compatible. Obviously, you need to be a believer. That's a non-negotiable. I used to be more in the physical space of age and height. I've let that go, but I used to go, my hard no was you couldn't be my age or younger, my height or shorter was an automatic no.
Oh my gosh.
I've evolved and gotten over that, and realized like it doesn't matter. It's the hard, I've gotten over that, but those were, for a long time, those were hard negotiables too. Yeah. I actually ended up dating somebody. It was so crazy because my tagline used to be, if a guy approached me, I go, you're younger than my younger brother. And I actually ended up dating somebody that was younger than my younger brother. Whereas before I was like, that's a non-deal breaker for me. Do you have any that you?
I would just say like believer, has to be believer, has to be like family oriented, community oriented in some way. And then I would say like being like fit, like healthy, like trying to work towards healthiness in all areas.
Yeah, I can't have that one.
Yeah. Well, also for me, he would have to be able to deal with a female as a minister, that which is not always easy for people to do. Oh, yeah. So he would have to be able to make room for that in my life. So that would be difficult sometimes for people to do.
Do you think that the church perpetuates the idea of Prince Charming? I say yes. I'm going to just say yes, and who I'm going to say.
Boaz.
Yeah, Ruth and we are like, and I've been, sign me up for the illusion too. I'm like, oh, my Boaz, where is he at? I definitely think that, again, like we were talking about the Proverbs 30 woman in a previous segment, the women that we it's unintentional, but the women that we highlight are not. They have the heart of God with these things. Unintentionally, he is the man. He's suave. He loves God. He's affluent, whatever that looks like for you, man of means. It's never generally just, oh, well, he has a heart of God. He has a heart of God and he's fine. He has a heart of God. He has money. He has a heart of God. He's this, whatever.
Boaz wasn't fine. It never said he was fine. He had money. He did have money. But the Boaz Ruth story, we get it all twisted and we focus on Boaz, but that was actually God maintaining his the line of Christ. He was maintaining the line of Christ. Because if we stop to think about the things that Ruth did, she went to his bed and laid at his feet. That was God protecting. God's protection was all in that. Naomi gave her that advice to go to his bed and lay at his feet. That was putting it, like really putting her on the line. That was Naomi that was Naomi doing what women and men do today. Like, you're single, you need a husband, go do this. And in God's sovereign mercy, love, protection, he protected Ruth. And her and Boaz still got together. But to tell someone to tell a female to go and lay at someone's feet a man's feet at night, she was putting her reputation on the line. She was putting her life on the line. It was Naomi doing that. But then God's sovereign hand of protection and that line that he had already decided that line was coming through Ruth. Then he protected her and he protected his plan and his agenda. So it's not really, we get so into Boaz and that's not even what the story is about. That's not what the story is about. But that story, but that story is no different. We look at it in a positive light, but that story is really no different than the Abraham and Sarah story. Abraham and Sarah, they said, okay, you said we're going to have a son, so let's go make a son. Naomi said, okay, you need a husband, so let's go get you a husband. It's still man trying to do God's work. And it's not about Boaz and Ruth. It's about God's plan.
But love had to be in there some way because he's a rich man. He was like, his eye was on Ruth. let me be clear. We definitely have preached the romance and left out the God part of that situation. This was really about God and his love for us and mirroring that for sure. But love had to be a part of it.
They grew into love. He couldn't love her right. I mean, I guess
she caught his eye.
She caught his eye. She caught his eye. He was older. She was younger. Yeah. And then she caught his eye. Did he say any? He didn't say anything about her being beautiful. She was young. She was working. She was gleaning the fields. She was picking up the stuff that the gleaners left behind. She was working. He didn't say anything about, oh, she's a beautiful woman. She's this. She's that. She's got, he didn't say that.
But that just goes to show what we're talking. The church is definitely, we've crafted it unintentionally. He's always crafted as handsome, rich savior.
And she didn't say that about him either.
You mean
that he was handsome and all this stuff?
Yeah, well.
Yeah, it's like she looked at him as like the redeemer, the redeemer. Family. But if that's
so, should be considered a gold digger. Is the lineage? Does Jesus have a gold digger in his lineage?
Well, he's got a lot in his lineage.
Oh yeah, I guess he does. Well, thank the Lord. Yeah, because I'm like, that's true. She never was like, wow, I love. It was just. But we have played
That's not a gold digger, though. Back in the day, men provided for the women. He is a provider. And then Naomi said, well, she wouldn't have known. Ruth wouldn't have known because she was a Moabite. But the tradition was, that he's our kinsman redeemer. You're next. He's next in line to, well, he wasn't. There was another one, but the story, whatever.
How is this going forward as dating, as women how can we just stand truthfully in what we and not continue to evolve from the fairy tales that are just constantly out there that we're constantly bombarded with? Do you think it is just something as simple as just be in your word, be in your relationship with Christ, and that's all you can do, or are there other things that we can kind of do to mitigate that? The society tells us about fairy tales that you managed to stay fairy tale free. But for us over here, we're over here like, oh, love and the fairy tale of it all. Because the images, the thoughts of how we were raised or whatever, I mean, we constantly have to just deal with them and evolve past them. Is it just strictly the word and God?
I think just resting and knowing that God sees you and he understands that it's hard to because you and what you have, the desires that you have in your heart, he understands that and he sees that, and he'll give you he'll exceed your expectations when the time comes. So I think just being patient and focusing on receiving the love from him and not focusing on trying to receive it from man. I think that's the goal there, and that can be obviously getting your word and praying and seeking him in that way, but also maybe building a community, and it's just trying to figure out how to serve other people so that you can receive eventually.
What about you, Jackie?
I'm old and you have to repeat the question.
I mean, is there anything personally to do to help, just again, because we're constantly going to be bombarded with ideas, thoughts that can lead to fairy tale things of us just holding on to fairy tales, things that are not necessarily true in a reality of a relationship as single women. So once we meet a man, that we are,
I think we are. Yeah, I think, and this is not going to surprise you. I think the main focus is Christ, is God. Yeah, and if you focus on him and you know who you are in him, then you continue to read his word and to understand his word. Then when someone, like with the Ruth and Boaz story, you know that that's not what it's about. So you have the wisdom and the knowledge of God as you walk through this life, and you focus on him, and you understand that I'm beautiful and I'm perfect without a man. That I'm complete. I am complete without a man, and if one comes, as Liara said, he will exceed my expectations because he's going to come not from someone that I chose, but from someone that God chose for me. Because I have chosen in the past, and I am divorced. So yeah.
All right. Well, there you have it. Words of wisdom from the mouth of babes. You guys, we covered it all. And wherever you are on your journey with fairy tales, the ones that don't serve you, hopefully this discussion helps you to kind of re-examine those to help you evolve. And for those of you that are fairy tale free over here, well, you know what? You're on the right track. So here you go. And just stay blessed.